So we have this panel. Now I decide I want to glaze this. So I will first of all need a transparent colour unless I want to do an opaque glaze. And you just get to learn over time which colours are transparent and which are opaque. This is magenta, which this particular magenta anyway is very transparent, and of course I've just gone and got white in it again. And then you can apply it with a brush or you can apply it with a tissue, doesn't matter. And you're just rubbing it on lightly, and then you can either leave it like that or you can start taking parts of it away, if you can see that. So parts are lighter than other parts. If you do that same transparent colour, I did that over the lightest part of this painting. But if I do it over the blue and the brown here, what it will do, and I've put it on quite thick there, is it will change their colour, but you can still see the previous stuff underneath, depending on how light you make it, and you can keep adding and subtracting water until you're happy with the glaze. If you want to unify all the colours of a painting, you can do a very light glaze over the whole thing in one colour. Whatever colours you've used, however clashing, they will then all work together. So I am now pulling some of this back off again, but even where I've pulled it off, it has tinted the colour underneath. So I get some of my beloved Phthalo turquoise, which is a very transparent colour. Some of that on my palette. Get it on my get my cloth wet, and then go over parts of this. A little bit of that brown isn't dry yet. Go over parts of that. Take I don't know if you can see, but that's now, you've got different layers going on there, so that's changed the colour of that brown. If I now come back in over it with some magenta, I change the colour of that again. Then I can go in dark with a darker glaze on certain parts. Take some, now these are not colours that particularly go together next to each other like this. But as you start to layer them on, they start to, you can see the underlayers through, and it changes the nature. One of the nicest effects I love to get is a really light cream made with yellow ochre, and a tiny bit of yellow ochre and a lot of white, and then glaze over that with burnt sienna, which is a very transparent colour. And here I've got burnt sienna that went quite muddy. If I want that to look better, I can glaze over it, and the more layers of this glaze that I put on, the richer it's going to start to look. So where you've got muddy areas, a glaze is a really nice way to bring rich colour. But I'm not doing this with any glazing fluid, I'm doing this with water. When I finish my paintings, I'm sealing them really well. I doubt they'll need to still be here in 500 years. So I'm all right with using water, but like sealing them well is important. I'm just having fun there, so I'm just keeping going with this, because you see each layer that you add on, it just gets richer and richer. And please don't think I'm suggesting this is a finished painting. But if you want a nice underlayer to start work on when you're painting abstractly and you just don't know what you're doing, glazing is a lovely place to start, because then what happens is, as you put other layers on, then if you sand back into it, you come across these lovely glazes. And then you can glaze with opaque colours as well, and that gives a different effect, which isn't my favourite effect, but this has got a lot of white in it. It's a blue with a lot of white in it, so it's quite opaque, and that makes a kind of a foggy atmosphere over anything you've already done, whereas the transparent colours give a real clarity to everything. And one trick, if you're trying to get a luminous feeling, one really good trick is to put gloss medium cut over between layers. The gloss medium brings all the colours out and makes them glow even more. Another interesting way to glaze is with one of these wedges. I've got both colours on here, because this gives you a thin layer, and as long as you're using translucent paint, you can get a really nice glazed effect with that. That's lovely. Now, if I don't want it all solid like that, I don't want to lose everything that was underneath, I can come back in while it's still wet and knock some of that out. And so it's a constant process of adding, subtracting, adding, subtracting. Straight back over that with some of this blue. Now that blue, see how that blue over the burnt sienna has gone so luminous, and it wasn't looking that luminous previously, but it's the underlayers, it's all the stuff that's underneath. Acrylic paint just gets more and more beautiful the more layers there are. So this is quite thick, so I'm going to take some of that off. You see how it's not at all getting muddy, it's just getting more and more more and more luminous, more and more alive the more you do. And so I really like doing this for skies, like if I am doing a sky area, I really like using glazes for skies, because you can, I'm using pure colour here, but you can obviously knock these colours back and you can make such subtle effects and such a beautiful feeling. And also the glaze picks up the texture of the paint. I'm not sure if that shows through there, but the glaze can really highlight any nice textures. And then final thing I'll show you, so if you have glazed, if you then come in with a nice solid opaque next to that, that just looks even better. The solidity of that is beautiful against the lightness and the lack of solidity in the glazing. And of course, when you've done that, I'm smoothing that out a bit because I don't want those brush marks. When you've done that, then you can go back in, and when that's dry, you can glaze over that again, or you can not glaze over it and keep it opaque. But you can build up really interesting effects and layers that way. So now we've put that opaque down, we glaze over it again with the blue, and you can see that what was white has a different quality under there to what wasn't. have no idea what's going to happen here, but I just want to try something. So if we get a really wet cloth, we get some of this magenta. Haven't got enough magenta there. Get more magenta. We glaze over this whole area. And when that glaze is dry, we peel off the bits we masked. You can see how you have, and this is how you can get different layers into your glazing. You can get weird shapes. So that's a very quick and rough demo of glazing. And as a byproduct, I now have a nice panel to do something with.